Hello,
Hello.
Irina Tsapro, how are you?
I'm fine, I'm great, I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. You shouldn't be that kind, to be honest. I don't think cartoon characters are supposed to be this genuinely kind.
No, this one is a villain, so...
Is a villain?
Yeah, he is.
I don't know, I don't watch anime.
He's a jerk.
Irina, but online known as Penumbra Designs.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I have been cosplaying for a while now. I am actually a costume designer by trade, and this is what I have been doing for more than the past decade now, in different forms. It started out as cosplay, then I signed up for a bachelor's for costume. It's theater and cinema design, which implies both costume and stage design. But I was always much more interested in the costume department. So after I graduated, I got my bachelor's, then I made my own company for alternative fashion. So that's what I'm working on still. And I also last year I had my master's degree in costume design. So in general, I do cosplay, both as a hobby and sometimes as a job. It's more of a hobby, really. But my actual job is costume designer. I do theater. I make costumes for different stage performers, and I also make all sorts of weird accessories for my brand. So that's what I do. Okay,
so your goal in life is to make people look good, to make them good. That's
very
nice.
Much so.
That's a good, valiant goal to have. And may I ask again? I'm not well versed in the fandom you are choosing to portray yourself as. What are you today? I mean, as a character. I know you're a woman, but what are you today?
My character. Well, I am a man today, so.
Oh, you're a boy. Oh, okay, sure.
Yes, I am. Yeah, his name is Vox. He is
like the animal?
No, like
F-O-X?
Like V-O-X.
Vox.
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 Like
the Warhammer one.
Vox Populi.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. He is a TV host. He is a business entrepreneur, and he is from hell. It's from a show.
Basically Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Something of the sort, yeah.
Sure.
He is from a show that's called Has Been Hotel.
And where has it been?
Nobody knows. They have yet to answer this one.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's from last year, but they are about to bring it back for season 2 next year, hopefully. So I am waiting to see how things pan out.
Okay, lovely, lovely. I believe I would say this whole love of cartoons, animated art form started when you were young, I would assume. Okay. I had read that you once stated that when I was little, I wanted to become a designer.
Yes.
What was the event that made you come to this revelation? And did you immediately know that inner designer would create costumes? Was that the first, okay, I'm gonna go straight for the costumes?
That's a tough one because it was kind of a gradual progression. So at first I grew up with the Disney movies and
of course,
yeah, and other animated movies from the era. It was a very good era for animation.
It was the Disney Renaissance, correct?
Disney Renaissance.
Sure.
But I think it was more near the end of the Disney Renaissance, but they had some solid works, and 2D animation was thriving. I'm not a huge fan of 3D animation as of late because I feel like it's gotten repetitive, and I think that the general populace misses the 2D animation days, but I also get that it's more expensive to make. So
I agree, I'm also in the same camp.
Yeah, but yeah, I grew up with those, so I always liked animation, and I always liked dressing up just as a little kid because we would celebrate Halloween, even though it's not really a thing in Bulgaria, but my parents were always like very, they always encouraged me, and I have an older brother as well, so they always encouraged us to do what we liked, and I in particular, he didn't. I like to dress up, so we celebrated Halloween a lot. Also at school we have those masquerades, like a spring masquerade, I think it was. And
Around this time of year, correct?
yeah, sort of. And like every year, yeah, we would dress up, and other kids' families would usually just like rent costumes because it wasn't that big of a deal, but for me it was a big deal. So I tried. I don't remember making like any intricate piece or anything like that, but we always tried to like come up with something that I was currently interested in. And then at some point I started watching anime and I got into cosplay. But before that, just like design-wise, I don't know, I always liked to draw, to paint, and I wanted to be like a traditional artist when I was little, like a very little kid. Then I wanted to be an actress, and then I reverted back to the arts, but I wanted to make clothing now. And I think I also had inspiration from the character Edna Mode from The Incredibles. I think she played a role somewhere in there. Like,
was it the big nose? Or the bowl cut hair? What was it?
The hair was pretty nice. I really like the bob cut. I think this stayed in my mind because usually when I get a wig and I don't have anything else to do with it, just like someone gives me a wig they don't want anymore, I just do a bob cut every time.
You mentioned that your Halloween indulgences, it was a family event, including your brother and such, even though he was not that much in it.
He wasn't really, he always thought it was kind of cringe.
Kind of cringe. I
He
understand.
never got into cosplay, well, it's just me.
He's an older brother, probably.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand. But your parents obviously had to be a part of it because
Yeah.
you were a child. Did your parents realize that you had this revelation of art being a part of you so early on? If so, did they nurture it, or were they against it, or what was that kind of dynamic as soon as you expressed an interest in the arts?
Oh, they knew instantly.
And then you...
Yeah. My mom always said, and I quote, when you were a little kid, you didn't want to engage with other people, you just wanted everyone to leave you alone and give you a piece of paper and like a pencil.
Oh, okay.
So I would just like doodle. I don't think they kept any of the doodles, so I don't even remember what I used to draw. I think I used to draw like palm trees. I used to draw palm trees a lot. I have never been interested in botanics or anything like that, but it was the easiest thing to draw, so I drew them a lot.
I was more of the boxed car design guy myself, but I know what you're coming from, I understand.
I also painted more like drew, because I think I did most of like pencil work when I was little, but I made a lot of horses because I used to be a horse riding competitor back in the day.
Oh, so you were a horse girl. Oh, okay.
I was a certified horse girl, yeah. I even had my own horse for a while. And I have like some medals and stuff. But yeah, what was the initial question?
Your parents' relationship.
My parents' relationship, yeah, they always encouraged.
It was encouraged.
Yeah, they encouraged me. Like at first it was like the painting, the drawing, and then doing all sorts of like arts and crafts. And my mom, she was always into the arts and crafts herself. My dad, not so much. He works in security. He's an ex-military, so
understandable.
Nothing of the sort. Yeah, but my other part of the family, they're architects.
Since one side of your family was an architect sort of group, I would assume that there was sort of a mix between engineering and art design, because architecture itself is very much technical from the point that everything needs to be sound and stable and correctly built.
Yeah.
I would assume that costume designing is similar in that sense, that there are a lot of technical parts to it, because designing clothes itself, I would assume, is not that easy to do. How did that then slowly morph into the idea of cosplaying, the idea of creating clothes, dealing with fabrics, materials, choosing a certain aspect, a character, what have you, to embody. Was the cosplay the first step in that direction, or was it straight to costume designing?
Cosplay was first.
Cosplay
Was the first, yeah, because I started in 2012, and at first I didn't sew my own costumes because I didn't have experience in the field at all. So my first costume was kind of partially bought, partially thrifted, partially like hand sewn. My mom, I think she made me a skirt from a scarf, something like this. It was very DIY, but it looked good. And because like both me and my mom, we put a lot of emphasis on aesthetics when we do something, so we try to make it look good. And this has always been the number one priority, to just have clean work for me. It's very, very important when you make a project for it to look clean, even if it's not like a perfect technique or anything, it just has to look well made. My first costumes, they were simple costumes. I didn't start with big builds, because I know a lot of people whose first costume was just were like big armors and the such.
You were humble. You didn't want to show off that early on. I understand.
But like, I think it took me, I don't know, like 2 years or so to start properly making costumes by myself. My mom helped a lot again. She was very engaged with what I did cosplay-wise.
Really?
And she would get all excited about my projects. I would come to her and be like, "Hey, Mom, do you want to help me do this character for convention?" And she was actually very enthusiastic about it and helped me out. So a lot of actually the engineering techniques I sort of got from her early on. I think she's a construction engineer for buildings, and my dad is technically an electrical engineer as well, so engineer family. When you have a 2D picture and you want to
transfer it to a 3D space?
To a 3D space, like with this one. Like, for example, the shoulders, they're huge and the shape is all triangular, so there is nothing natural about this shape. And it's not something, if you just make a regular tailcoat, it will look much different. It will have like a normal shoulder and it would be practical. This one is very impractical.
I understand.
But it requires a lot of engineering to get it to stay in the cartoony shape, but also to have a human body underneath.
I believe this is one of the major issues why it is so hard to transfer anime into live action, correct?
It is. In my opinion, this is the hardest part. I see a lot of people struggle with it, and I myself have struggled with it a lot. But I think because I had the background of my parents being engineers, and they would, every once in a while they would tune in, they would suggest ideas and everything. I think I had it a lot easier than, say, a person who had none of this.
You said that this all started with cosplaying.
Yeah.
And I believe all these lessons came into play on its own, step by step, correct?
Yes.
How was it when you were awarded the winner of Best of Show in Ani Venture in 2012 as Hatsune Miku? How was that moment like? And follow-up question, have you always been this big of a nerd?
I think I have.
You always been?
I have always been.
Oh, okay.
I was never normal. I was bullied in middle school because I was a nerd.
Deservedly, yes.
Yeah, but look, I turned out just fine.
Oh yeah, right, cool.
Perfectly normal.
What is a Hatsune and what is a Miku?
I don't actually think they have the name has meaning, because a lot of the Japanese name actually do have meanings, but I've never checked actually.
You attended the National Academy of Theatre and Film Arts, Krastyo Sarafo.
Yes.
What was your experience like there?
I actually quite liked it.
You did?
Because, yes, my professor was like our main tutor. She is a wonderful professional. And she works on a lot of plays in the US, in China, just all around the globe. Every year I see her post that she's in some country working on some grand play. So she's very good. My class in particular, because every year, there's different professor taking a class, so it very much depends on who yours is. And ours was just very good, so she gave us a lot to work with. Actually, I got into the academy with a cosplay portfolio. I didn't have any paintings.
Is it a bit unorthodox to get accepted via cosplay?
It was. Back in the day, I was the first one to do it.
Truly?
Yeah.
Trailblazer.
My point is that after me, a lot of other cosplayers signed up.
Since you said you had a great teacher, I would assume you had also great classmates, great subjects, an environment that helped you to nurture and grow your talents.
Yes.
What were the most practical lessons you learned and took with you on your journey forward that you may have not gotten strictly from the classes or the curriculum, but just from being in that environment?
That's a tough one. Just working in the field, as in they would, we would have subjects, but every once in a while we would actually work with other colleagues on place. And
colleagues in the sense of other departments?
Yes,
okay.
Like directors, actors, etc. And this actually helped us a lot. And it was extracurricular activity. Technically, we didn't have to do it. They encouraged us to make contacts. And I don't think I made that many contacts actually, because even though I like theater and I like working for theater, I don't want this to be my main profession. I don't like theater that much. I like musical theater, this is why I actually signed up. And my graduation projects, all of them, both for the bachelor's and the master's degree, they were all musical theater. I did Cabaret by Joe Masteroff, I did Hades Town by Anais Mitchell, I did Six as well.
In 2019, you were involved with the production of E.T.A. Hoffman's The Strange Child.
Yes.
As the assistant to Marina Raicinova.
Yeah, this is my professor.
Was that a daunting challenge for you?
I had a very small portion of it as an assistant. I had to do the helmets, so everyone had those wigs, but since it's for the puppet theater, so this play was an exception because the puppets were the actual actors, but we had to make them look like puppets. And they also had a smaller, puppet clones of themselves.
There were actors dressed as puppets and puppets dressed as the actors dressed as puppets.
Yes, exactly. It was a lot of fun. But what I did for it was make all the headpieces. So I ended up making these helmet types of wigs from EVA foam, very colorful, very fun to look at and very fun to make as well. I also did their makeup for it, and we would have for this type of work, when you work as an assistant to the designer, you don't do their makeup every time, but more like you gather them, you do the makeup once, and then you teach them how to do it again, teach the makeup department. When you're a costume designer, it's your job to, after you actually the whole costume thing comes into fruition, it's your job to instruct all the departments responsible for the pieces, how to store them, how to put them on and off safely.
And what was the genesis of your journey of becoming that independent designer for theater, such as your work with Elle on making the chokers for Elle Bulgaria, or your work on the Oedipus stage play, Moby Dick, in 2024. How much of a confidence boost is it, or is it needed to be good in these skills for you to be a part of these big of projects?
I've never thought about it this way. It's because they're sort of interconnected. For me, everything is just a continuous flow of work, and things just come up along the way, and
things cascade one into the another.
Kind of. Because I do my thing. I meet people. People say they're making a project, they need something from me, as in something in my style. So what I'm trying to say is it's not a big deviation of my original path. I'm always very happy to work on big projects. It is a confidence boost, and if anything, it's very good for my portfolio. But it's also normal. I see it as a normal progression. It's more like other people noticing what I do and wanting to be a part of it, or like it to be a part of their project. So I would say that in the years of course, I started out small, so I never thought much of my skills, but now that I have...
Me too. Then I grew.
Yeah, but everyone does that. When I started cosplaying, I think I didn't have like huge, ambitious future goals. I think I just wanted to make cool stuff.
You wanted to express yourself artistically.
And I still want to make cool stuff, so it's about the same, but now I have to think more business-like, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but it's good for, one's development.
Do you think that the line between passion and a business can be quite easily crossed or blurred?
I think everyone who works in the field of their hobby has moments in which it's more of a tedious process than actually inspiring experience. But for the most part, I would say I'm happy with the projects I make. I have the luxury of choosing my clientele. So if someone proposes a project that I'm not interested in, then I will just not make it. Unless it is for a lot of money, but that's usually not the case, so I get to choose. And if it is for a lot of money, then I am very much money-oriented, so I have another motivator.
So you sell out?
Yes. So you have to either be very passionate or have an external motivator.
Lady Marina Racino described you as a very shy, timid, and punctual student at the beginning of your bachelor's. Did you start your journey with anything weighing you down for you to be like that?
I've always been shy.
You've always been?
Yeah, I think it's just a permanent character trait.
Oh.
My family has taught me to always be humble about what I do. And of course, it's not good to be overly humble because then people would underestimate your skills. But so you have to find,
the balance.
The middle, yeah. So I guess that when you start doing something that is out of your comfort zone, that you haven't done before, you always have doubts. And I usually doubt myself a lot, not in a way that's hindering like my experience overall, but before doubting someone else, I would first doubt myself, and I would look for a mistake within myself and my methods of work. Because I think this is the quickest way to fix something. If I'm doing something wrong, then I will, troubleshoot it more quickly.
I understand.
But this also comes with holding off a bit.
I understand.
Yeah, not straight out going all into a project.
Yeah, not being that headstrong and going
Yeah.
I understand.
Exactly. So I think like the more confident I am in a project, that in my skills, in my knowledge about the project, the more confident I will be in my work overall.
You are a person that has since created this persona of Penumbra Designs. Were you hesitant of taking your first steps?
Again, it was just a gradual process. So I don't think I ever noticed it happening until I had already established the thing.
So everything you were doing throughout your academia, it just continued on even though the academia is finished?
Yeah, my work just has a very strong direction. I'm trying to maintain that as well.
Academia just focused and intensified your progression.
Yeah, precisely. I didn't have to do any detours, really. I took a lot out of the academic process, but I also brought with me a lot of things out of the cosplaying process. So I mixed and matched. This helped both.
As someone who is starting out, who wishes to start out, what are the vital skills that I need to have?
So, to anyone who's starting out, I would recommend doing some research first. This applies both for cosplay and for design.
And where can you do research?
The internet. But also speaking to your local community. If you have anyone like who is cosplaying, and they would be willing to share, or they would be willing to introduce you to other people from the community. That is very, very valuable.
Sure. And apart from that, you do your research, you find a community, and what are then, as you build up this base of operations, these pillars on which you can lean on, what are then the practical skills that you can do at home? Because you had some before you even went to university, correct?
Yeah, I did. I would recommend just starting out with smaller projects and with just small things. And what I usually recommend to people who haven't done any cosplaying at all, they haven't done any sewing work or anything of the such, is choose a simpler look. Try to thrift some clothes that are close to the reference, and then just make small changes in them. Mm-hmm. Or perhaps even buy a costume, because back when I was starting out, just getting into the hobby, we didn't have the option to buy costumes, not any quality ones anyways, mm-hmm. back in Bulgaria especially, but everything was in the internet. But cosplay is a business nowadays.
Yes.
It's a blooming business. Nowadays you have a lot of options to choose from to get a costume that looks quite decent. And depending on the character, you can get a very accurate costume. And if you get a ready-made one and just make small tweaks, small changes, just to make it look better, maybe to try to tighten it or something. You don't have to have a sewing machine in order to sew. A lot of people I know, they started off by hand sewing, hand stitching things.
I got that covered. I have 2 of them.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. You being a part of these communities, I assume you had one starting off yourself. Did your inspirations with creating costumes, picking the art you would like to embody, did that start there already, or was it all since from childhood, everything that brought it up? Or was it Disney? Was it anime? Was it cartoons? Something folklore?
Some of the inspiration I brought from my childhood, but a lot of it came later on during the years. And the more I worked on cosplay and engage with the community and just saw newer and newer things, the more my cosplay list grew, and I got introduced to a lot of media that I don't think I would have been introduced to if I wasn't in the community at all. So it's, again, everything is connected, like a conspiracy theory. Just pin things and then with this red string, you just connect them.
It's the people, then the big companies, then the bigger companies, then Jeff Bezos, then Bulgaria, and then this is you.
Yes.
And then the cosplayers above that.
Precisely.
Precisely, okay. Is there anything specific that always stays a part of the likes and the fascinations that you have? For instance, I had seen you embody the Lady of the Lake, or be it Pennywise, or be it the Corpse Bride, or be it what have you. Is there something that has always been there, or is each project just a one and done situation where it has a beginning and an end and you never touch it again?
Oh, no, I usually work based on hyperfixation. So in order to, in most cases, in order to make an entire cosplay, I need to be very much engaged with the fandom that I'm cosplaying from. Mm-hmm. And it depends on the project. Sometimes I make projects just because I think they would look nice and they would do great for a photo shoot. Maybe a friend is cosplaying from somewhere, and then I have the opportunity, the time to make a cosplay from the same show because I've seen it and because I want to cosplay with my friend. So then I make it and we make a photo shoot. But for the big builds especially, I need to feel engaged personally. So usually the characters I choose are in some way connected to me. So they are, sometimes I choose them based on the aesthetic because I think it's going to be just a fun project to do. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I choose them because I just like them
for other
as
reasons.
A character.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest fandoms or what have you that truly took up your interest and you wanted to pursue them visibly? I understand this hotel that has been this is one of them, but what other fandoms or whatnot are a part of that group?
I've always liked the works of Tim Burton, and so thus the Corpse Bride cosplay, but I've also done Sally from A Nightmare Before Christmas. I generally like horror and horror-esque
Macabre
things.
stuff.
Yeah, macabre stuff. I've done...
We're the same in that regard.
Nice. I have done La Muerte from the
Book of Life.
Yes.
I've seen this.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro work of it.
Do you think you can pull off Pan from Pan's Labyrinth?
It's such a complicated costume. Have you seen the motorics?
I mean, how hard is it to put your eyes to your hands? I don't know. I think you could do it.
I have a lot of respect for people who cosplay creatures as in of the fleshy kind, because that usually involves a lot of prosthetic casting with silicone. This is expensive as hell.
What do you think, since you mentioned him and Tim Burton, you know, the man who started his whole career with a man who has scissors for hands, what do you think is this connective tissue between Guillermo del Toro, who has expressed a love for monsters, between Tim Burton, who has expressed a love of the macabre and the unorthodox, grotesque, and shady? And how do you think their similarities have been adapted by you?
Well, interesting one. But they both go in a general direction that is, you know, as you said, the unnatural, the macabre. But there's also quirkiness to it, usually.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
It's not that there is a certain style. Like with Tim Burton, it's quirkier.
Tim Burton, I would say, is very much an unorthodox man, and it's mostly visible in films such as A Nightmare Before Christmas, in the sense that they use their own medium of film to convey a different art form, who then in turn adds something to a story being told in itself, is something that is a bit more complex to use film, to show stop motion, to show a story about A Nightmare Before Christmas, what have you. Is that macabre a pillar that then also correlates with, you know, creating costumes from different materials, for different styles, different genres, fandoms, what have you? Is it all connected, or does one build on top of each other?
It really depends. It depends because I would say it's a big part of me. I would say I generally lean towards this direction, but I also make a lot of projects that don't have this connection at all. I make a lot of anime characters, and the process of choosing a character is much different there. But again, it's very individual, project to project. Like with the Corpse Bride, The Nightmare Before Christmas, I think nostalgia played a big part into actually making those projects like much later in my life, because I finally had the set of skills, and it was something that was, say, engraved in my mind from my young age. So it was important to me that I worked on this and I portrayed these characters.
The level of complexity demanded a higher level, a higher degree of skill from you to do it justice.
Yeah, because, like, for example, for Corpse Bride, I would take like as many screenshots from the animation as I could, and then I would try to divide them by the different puppets they use, because you don't use one single puppet, you know, for the whole movie. You use a lot of puppets that are copies of one another, but they have little differences. Maybe like in the gown, because her gown is very long and all torn up, but the tears are different puppets.
Yes.
So if you want to make a 100% accurate costume, you have to use references of the same puppet, otherwise you'll get confused. Because with 3D animation, you just get the character model, and this is it, this is what they used, so you can follow it to a T, and this is going to be it. But with stop motion, you have to track the puppet and then try to get what you can. I try to find also photos that people took during exhibitions of the puppets themselves. For example, every flower on like the headband or in the bouquet, I hand sculpted it with like clay in order to match the puppet. And this is the same technique that they use, but just a bigger scale. So I'm trying to emulate that. And
because you're not a puppet, obviously.
yes.
Is there a certain goal, standard, or a certain want that you strive for when you create your costumes?
It's different with different projects, but if I work for a competition, for say like an international one, then the standard is that we, the competitors, we have to be a carbon copy of the character if possible. So everything needs to be as close to the reference material as possible. This is my main goal as I work on those. And if it's a costume from another era, a historical era, then I would try and use historical techniques as well. And it's not going to be 100% historical because we have limitations of the modern times, which is it's a bit of an oxymoron there. But nowadays, say if you're making a kimono, you cannot usually afford to do the use and method of making a kimono, which involves a few different houses of craftsmen crafting a single piece in the span of about a month. I cannot do that. For WCS in Japan last year, I had to do a kimono, and it was a very colorful kimono, so I could either paint it, but I cannot paint it because the technique is not accessible to me to do it right and to make it look really good, and there's a lot of room for error. I cannot do application because they didn't do it back in the day, and this would make the texture like different as a whole. My cosplay partner and I, we opted for fabric printing, so I had to make the files, and then I had a very crinkled fabric, and then we took it for sublimation, and I just stayed throughout the entire process and helped out. And in the end, we just pressed the fabric, which was crinkled, and it became flat. The print transferred. We ended up with a very interesting texture, which is like squished paper. And this was actually very, very close to the overall aesthetic of the anime because it has a paper filter on it. So it's things like this. I usually try to choose projects that have like maybe little things that are out of my comfort zone so that I can expand my
So you can challenge
set.
yourself.
Yes. And so for that project, we did kumihimo weaving for, like, we made ropes out of silk thread. I did woodwork for sandals. We had like geta sandals, and I had to assemble them, to sand them, to stain the wood, and all sorts of. I've had projects for which I've had to sculpt, to embroider, to dye fabrics, to make like complex wig shapes. So I try to choose projects for competitions in particular, to choose projects that would challenge me.
For your Princess Mononoke outfit,
It's actually not Princess Mononoke. Princess Mononoke is a different movie altogether. It's just Mononoke, and it's a surreal horror anime from 2007.
Okay. My apologies. I'm familiar with the Princess Mononoke one.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying because they're very similar in name. But
Well, when it comes to Mononoke, in 2024, you won the Brother Award in the Special Prize Costume Making category. As someone who has had to invest some time in woodworking and specific techniques of creating costumes, how was that moment then like of being recognized, basically revered and celebrated for your achievement? Because that is a genuine achievement. I mean, I don't know how to work with wood. I can chop it down, that's about it.
I mean, you learn gradually, so this is actually an award that I always wanted. The only thing I wanted out of WCS was to get the Brother Award. I mean, placing in the top 3, it would have been good too, but my focus was on the Brother Award.
Why this award particularly?
Because it's an award for craftsmanship, and it's also the most expensive award in the entire championship. Yes, because if you win...
When can I see some of that money?
No, they give you a machine. They give you 2 machines actually, one for me, one for my partner. Sometimes they would give out sewing machines, other times it has been embroidery machines. This year it was a scanner and cutter machine. So in order to get the brother award, you actually get judged by two groups of people. The way the judging works on WCS is you have a day in which they judge your costumes, just the costumes, and you have a jury of the organizers. I think it was 8 of the organizers of the other teams.
And what was this event called, for the people who don't know?
It's called World Cosplay Summit, and it's held in Nagoya, Japan, yearly. It's the equivalent of the Olympics for cosplay.
Yes.
Sort of a big deal.
I mean, it has the world in its name, so...
It does. Yes, so you have a day in which they judge the costume, then you have another day in which you do the performance, which, is the final product, so to speak, but you have a different jury for it. Mm-hmm. It's not the same. And if you get chosen for brother, then you have a third round of judging from the brother committee, and
then the brothers come in and they judge you.
Exactly, brothers come in. So this year, because they change the rules sometimes, but like last year, the year we won, the rule was if you place in the top 4 of best costumes on the costume judging part, you get qualified for brother. And then only those 4 teams go to the second round of judging, where the committee from the brother company again looks at the costumes, and you show them the techniques you used and everything like that. And then they get to decide, and after that they exclude you from the rest, and the rest gets...
And the leaderboard, they get accepted.
Yeah. So basically we got best costumes. Period. So this is a very big flex for me as a costume designer, because this is what I do. So this is why I really wanted this award. And now that
Clap!
Now that we have won it, I feel like I can peacefully retire from cosplaying. I mean, I will never retire from cosplaying as a whole, but just from international builds.
You can, basically. You've achieved Mount Everest, correct?
Yes.
I was told that you speak some Japanese.
I used to study Japanese in high school.
In high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's about 5 years of Japanese, I presume, but it's more like 4 and something, because last year in high school usually is dedicated to the final exams, so we didn't really do much. But I studied Japanese back then. I thought I was going to use it. I absolutely did not use it.
Why not?
Because like in Bulgaria there aren't many jobs that require Japanese, and of course you can sign up for university for a bachelor's or something like that in a language, but I wanted to study costume design, so nothing really came out of it.
How much do you think, as a person, since cosplaying is a big part of you and costume design, what would you say, how much of your own personality is dedicated to other things apart from cosplaying?
It's not like cosplay is the main thing, but it's very closely related to what I do in general. And what I do is create fashion. So they are, in a way, interconnected. But apart from that, I'm also very passionate about horse riding, horses in general. So, because I used to be a competitor, and even though I don't really go riding that much anymore, I'm still very much interested in what happens and just doing it whenever I can.
I have come to a point where I look at history and people and nations and what have you, and I realize that people are very complex in many ways. When it comes to you, you are a very complex person if you already have the capacity to do what you do, because not everybody would be capable of doing that. At least I'm speaking for myself. I won't be able to do what you do. Since you are from Bulgaria, Bulgaria and its people are very much drenched in their Slavic and Balkan roots. Was your art ever opposed by either the people or general broader society?
I don't think so. I don't think it was that harsh or anything.
Really?
I mean, there have always been people who didn't really get it. Back when I started and it wasn't that popular in Bulgaria, I people are very confused. What the hell is this? Especially if you go outside to shoot like a cosplay photo shoot in a busy area, then you'll get a lot of weird looks and maybe weird comments as well. But nowadays everyone knows what it is because of the new generation. There was a politician who had his own TV channel, and it was just a bunch of nonsense always. But I remember that he had like, in his TV channel, they showed a clip from our Comic-Con, which even back in the day, that was in 2015, so it was like a lot of time ago, but it was still a very big event.
It already picked up steam at that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a part of the Comic-Con franchise yet, maybe not, because it was by another name and then they merged, sort of. But the politician...
Well, if it came point to a merge where it got bought out, it had to be big.
Yeah, no, it's pretty big now. But yeah, I remember in like that TV channel, The Politician, they showed those clips from the event that contained the interview with me, and the politician was like, look at what like the youth is doing, they're ruining their lives. This girl over there, she could have studied math, but instead she's making those stupid costumes. Like, first of all, stupid costumes got me my education, and I have a master's degree, and second of all, I at the time was actually very good at math, and I went to like competitions and stuff, so it was very off, but it was very funny. I'm saying this in terms of like the Bulgarian mentality about this, but nowadays I think people are pretty chill about it. And
so the cultural zeitgeist caught up on the whole frontier of cosplaying.
Yeah.
That was very good. Do you feel like that you have been a sort of a trailblazer in that department, you yourself?
I perhaps a little in some departments, I guess. I was going to deny it, but come to think of it, I was one of the first people to start having professional photo shoots for cosplay in Bulgaria, because it wasn't really a thing until then. I think actually this is like the biggest thing I have achieved in terms of trends or whatever, but the Bulgarian community in particular is very competitive. And because we're very competitive, we advance very quickly, because everyone wants to beat the others. So we are constantly proving ourselves in order to, to be better in some way. And it's a weird motivator, but it works. I don't know how it is now, because I don't communicate with the community that actively. I mean, the community I communicate with are people mostly my age. So we're at a different point in our lives now. So we like doing cosplay, but we're also working adults. And I know there's like much more drama with the kids. Because it always is like that.
Yes.
But back when I was a teenager, there was a lot of like people spreading rumors, people trying to always win and like getting mad because they didn't win, and just like a lot of drama around it.
It's interesting that you brought up, drama and these foul plays. I would assume that it's not uncommon for women to be cosplayers. I would ask you, is the space filled with more men than women?
It's female-dominated field, as I mentioned earlier. It's mostly women, I think.
Mostly women. Oh, I misheard that part. My apologies. Is that just Bulgaria or in general? In general.
Yeah.
What is the difference between how women approach cosplaying, how men approach it? What is the reaction from the surrounding that they get?
It's generally more well pursued by the general public for women to do makeup and to do hair and things like that, just like styling in general. So I think this plays a big part, because a lot of the male cosplayers I know, they just like do armor and things that cover the head or something, but they usually don't do makeup or hair, and I think it has to do with it being shunned by society in a way, like doing your makeup and everything. I don't think a lot of men had the opportunity to better themselves by practicing, because they just don't practice. So it kind of makes sense, and it's the same with hand sewing, with embroidery. It's mostly hobbies that are like widely considered feminine, I think, and this is in a way stopping a lot of men from cosplaying.
You've shared your experiences, the skills you've learned, life's journey to a point, and now you have Penumbra Designs and your whole business flourishing on its own. How has that been able to change your life?
Well, everything has been pretty much the same. It just, this is just the natural course of things. I was always headed this way and just keep at it. It's not something out of the ordinary yet.
I mean, being an independent business from the business side, just being someone to earn a living off of this, has there anything changed?
Not really. I'm still doing what I used to do. I'm just getting paid for it.
Oh, okay. So going solo or independent business-wise, that is pretty scary, at least for me. I would assume it is.
It's always scary. I don't think it's... In my case, it's we're working with a very small scale because I did not have to take loans, like bank loans or anything. I'm keeping it quite casual. I'm, as I said, doing mostly what I used to do. I'm just doing more of it.
Okay.
And of course, sometimes I would want to work on one project, but I have to finish 2 more projects before that because they are for a client. I have priorities, but then again, everyone who is working 9 to 5 has the same priorities, just a bit different because when you freelance and when you can't just, wake up, go to work for this amount of time and then go back home and not think about work. You think about work 24/7. You can try and set boundaries with yourself, which is what, for instance, I'm trying to do sometimes. A lot of the times I would work 24/7 because I have a deadline, and if I try to keep a regular schedule, then I'm going to fall behind most likely, and I just want to see it finished. So I would push. This is the unhealthy part of being a freelance artist, I presume. I think everyone I've talked to who is in a similar situation to mine will give you the same answer. That
is just perfectly segues into what Miss Marina Rachinova told me. To convey this message to you, she said that it is good to take care of your talent, but also take care of your health. Do you think that your beloved art, as you said, you've been in this pitfall where it consumed you? Do you think it might ever turn into an obsession for you, or it just will always be, you will always be able to have that safe distance and relationship with it?
I don't think that anyone in the field has a very safe relationship with it. At some point we all fall victim to identifying ourselves with the things we make. Because you pour a lot out of you into the art.
Yes.
So in some way you become, very intertwined. Yes, it is good to, as I mentioned, to set up boundaries, to try, to preserve your mental health. So every time I feel like it's taking a toll on my mental health or physical health, I try to take a break, maybe go travel somewhere for a bit and stuff like that. But a lot of the time I do identify myself with my art because it comes out of me. So it's like a child in a way. Spoken from a person who has never had children, of course.
I'm just happy to hear that you already came to that conclusion on your own, to have a good balance between the two.
I think it's easy to come to the conclusion. It's like putting it into actually getting into work. That's the tricky part,
The last thing I would ask is, are you, as of now, how your life stands, do you truly feel happy and accomplished and at peace with what you do?
I feel generally happy with what I'm doing right now and how my life is progressing. Also, as anyone I think in my position would say, I don't think I could ever think that I have reached the peak of my performance and of my development, and I know that I have a lot more to do and there's a lot more I want to do and to give, to better myself, to basically progress forward. And I think this progress is going to be just a permanent part of my life. I think it's very important for people to strive for progress, because I think the moment you become stagnant and you lose your focus, you stop living your best life. Perhaps it works for some people who want maybe just like more peace in their life, but if you want to create and this is what brings you joy and this is what brings you purpose in a way, then I think you'd constantly want to do better and better and better and just like compare yourself to your old self. So I would say I am at peace as much as I can afford to be.
That's a hard line. Well, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for having a good talk with me.
Thank you. The cloth hand.
It's a booba.
You do be like that sometimes.
Tell the people where they can find you. Is there anything that you're working on that they might be looking out for to see in the future? Camera is yours. Let them know the people what you got going on.
Yes. Well, I was actually chosen to represent Bulgaria in ECG, Extreme Cosplay Gathering, this year in Paris. So this is the bigger cosplay project that I have going on. But for the most part this year, I just want to get back to the joy of cosplaying and of costume making in general as a whole. So I actually plan to spend a more chill year and just enjoy the process. I think everyone should once in a while. What I have going on is actually me taking care of my mental health and doing art.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
This was a very thorough interview.